Hey everyone, it's Murray here, and today I have a short little guide for you guys explaining side decking with Gladiator Beast, with the Ultimate Time Wizard coming up at Nats, and a lot of the some of the in-person RPTs. I want to share with you guys how to approach some of Glad's most important matchups in this format. I'm going to help teach you guys not necessarily what to think or what to side versus these decks, but how to side, how to approach them. And, hopefully this helps. I do like talking about Gladiator Beast in general. It is my favorite deck, of course. So I have 4 matchups that I want to talk about today and just go over, what makes them difficult and just some of the ways you can attack them. So yeah, let's go ahead and start off with public enemy number 1, the Blackwing matchup. This is the natural enemy of Glad's, and it's going to be the matchup you see the most of. So it's very important that you have a plan for it between your main and sideboard. So what makes the Blackwing matchup difficult? Well, I've dumbed it down to 3 different things. The first one is the high attack points. Sirocco, Shura, and Bora really outclass most of your normal summons. Royal Oppression is a problem card because it stops the way your deck wants to function. Some Blackwing decks already main deck the one Oppression, but post side, they're going to have both of them in against you. So it's very important that you have a plan for that. And then I put Colute and Icarus together because those cards in general are very annoying, and if not respected, can just blow you out. So when side decking, you really have to have a plan for these 3 things. So I have a little screenshot of different options, different things you can put in against Blackwing. Glads are a very flexible archetype. There's a lot of skill expression and the way you can build it. So these are different things you can put into your build that would help the matchup. So one thing that's very important to talk about when it comes to Blackwings is that the deck is very attached to its normal summon or its monster, right? A lot of the Blackwing cards do not function properly if there's no Blackwing on the field present, such as Icarus attack, Colute, Whirlwind can't resolve, there's no Blackwing present. So I think a good way of dealing with the matchup is with spot removal. As you can see here, I have cards like Smashing Ground and Snowman Eater, DD Warrior Lady to help trade with their monsters. I think Trap Hole is a very excellent way of dealing with Blackwing because they do rely on their normal summon, and most importantly, it keeps them from getting that very important Whirlwind search. And because you're playing Glads, you can easily capitalize off of that by tagging in the bestiary to pop the Whirlwind for value. So I think Trap Hole is a very good option there. We have Cyber Dragon because it outclasses all of their normal summons. Worst case scenario, it trades with a Colute, it trades with Bottomless Deep Present, but hey, they didn't cost your normal summon, so it's really good. Funny enough, the best monster against Blackwing is Sirocco itself. Funny how that works. I do like bringing in multiple complements for the matchup. It walls all their normal summons and forces them to have Colute. We also do want additional outs to Royal Oppression because, again, they're already maining one usually, but post side they're going to have both of them in. That's a very important card to answer. So me personally, I think that if you're not already main decking all 3 copies of Dust Tornado, you just side the remaining copies. But having additional out suppression is very important. I think 7 Tools and Trap Stun are very good options. I personally like Twister as an option because it's quicker, you can play from the hand. Hedge Card's a very interesting card here because it interacts very well with Colute, protects your GB. You can then Remillo tag during their turn, pop their monster. If If you want ways of dealing with Icarus, I recommend My Body and Starlight Road. My Body is a lot faster, but Starlight Road can sometimes just be a blowout if they can't handle the Stardust after the fact. I think a combination of these cards is very a good way to approach the Blackwing matchup, so definitely do consider any of these. Next up, I want to talk about the Hero Beat matchup. So Hero Beat is by far your most difficult matchup this format. Some people go as far as to say that it's unwinnable. I really don't believe so. I think the matchup is very much winnable, but it does require a high skill level to play against. You do have to be playing this matchup almost flawlessly. That's where it becomes difficult, right? And but it is very much winnable. But you do have to have a very strong plan for it. I currently have 8 cards for the matchup myself. I've been thinking about bumping it up to 10, but yeah, it is a deck you have to be building against. So, and here are the 3 reasons why I think it's a hard matchup. Number 1, the 1900s. Alias outclasses, again, all your normal summons. They have many ways of getting to Alias. They have strong removal in the form of Gemini Spark and Hero Blast. It's bad enough that those cards are chainable, but they can even plus off of them by either drawing a card off of the Spark or adding back Alias. So that can make the matchup very tricky. And then of course Absolute Zero is a very strong card. There's a reason why it's one of the best cards in the format. So when siding against Hero Beat, you really do have to have a plan for these 3 things. And then of course I forgot to mention in here, but Honest is also a threat. So what's our game plan for Hero Beat? I've selected the following cards here. So much like the Blackwing matchup, spot removal is going to be key here, because again, their a lot of their cards are very attached to their monsters, and the difference between this and the Blackwing matchup is, Hero Beat only plays so many monsters, so it's actually a very valid strategy to just trade for them until they run out. And so stuff like Warrior Lady, Cyber Dragon, Snowman are just very good ways of going up against their monsters face to face. Compliments is also very good in this matchup. You do want to be able to wall Alias and just force them to have Gemini Spark on it. D-Crow is a good option here. It does interact very well with Hero Blast, which can be brutal sometimes, and can occasionally just cancel out a Miracle Fusion play. I do like Hedge Guard for the same reason I like it against Blackwing. Stops Honest. My Body is a very good option here. It stops Gemini Spark. Interacting with Gemini Spark is huge. The 2 cards that do that here are My Body and Compulsory. My Body just completely cancels it out. They get blown a hard neg 1 by doing that. Compulsory is also very good because compulsing your Glad back to the hand means Gemini Spark didn't destroy it, and if Gemini Spark doesn't destroy it, they don't draw a card. So it's something to keep in mind. It also can trade very well with Absolute Zero. Dust Tornado is also very good. I do recommend also siding in a little bit of extra spell and trap hate for the matchup, because depending on what kind of Hero Beat deck it is, there may be skill drain among their back row. There are builds dedicated to skill drain. Oppression is not foreign, that they will sometimes side that. So I think extra copies of Dust Tornado, maybe some Trap Stun, some 7 tools, can't go wrong there. I really do like the Transmigration Prophecy for the same reason I like Crow in the matchup, except this is it's more devastating against them because it hits 2 cards. And then of course we have Super Poly. Super Poly is very specific because it's only for Hero Beat, but because it is your worst matchup, it's understandable to have something very targeted for the deck. Now, how many copies do you want? That's up to you. But the thing is, your extra deck with Gladiator Beast is very open. It's so open that us Glad players like to play like joke cards in the extra deck for fun. But yeah, you have a lot of room. So go ahead and put in some targets for Super Poly. Your Ab-Zeros, your Gaias, whatever you think is important. So I do think Poly is very good in that matchup. So this is how I would go about approaching Hero Beat. And then we have Value Turbo. I think Value Turbo is a good matchup for Glads. I've had no issue beating Value Turbo, but I wouldn't underestimate it, because as many times as I've beaten Value Turbo, it's beaten me as well. It's a very strong deck, right? But I do think it's very approachable. Now, what makes Value Turbo very challenging at times? Well, one, Royal Oppression. Value Turbo, most builds are guaranteed to play the one of, and then of course, post side, there comes the second copy. So you want a plan for that. Raiko and Caius usually aren't problematic cards for GB, but if you don't have the War Chariot at that moment, it can spiral out of control. I've always felt that it was pretty crazy that in Value, a Raiko can sometimes turn into a card that pops a card, and then summons a 2300 beater from the extra deck. So it's kind of crazy that Value can do that. And then Caius, of course, it's Caius. It's the best card in the format, the premier card, right? And then, of course, the explosiveness of Value Turbo can just feel like a lot of times. The ability to go Greffer into Armwing and just present 4K on board very easily, as well as the explosiveness of cards like Burial, Dark Arm Dragon, Return. So it can just finish you off out of nowhere. So those three things are what makes Value challenging and a deck to respect when playing Glads. So what's the game plan for Value? What do we have for it? Well, here are the cards I've chosen for the matchup. So as far as monster goes, Crow is a solid option for Value Turbo. If you're not already main decking the second Retiari, do go ahead and side it. Just being able to keep Value away out of the grave is important in that matchup. Of course, there's always the option of you tagging into both off geysers and then completely shutting them off. So you definitely do want multiple Retiari here. For the spells, Ancient Forest. So Ancient Forest, I've talked about before. I think it's the best card that us Glad Beast players have for the Value matchup. It's basically a much better Nobleman for this deck, because upon activation, it puts the Raikos and Hamsters to face-up attack. It won't activate their effects, and then it has that one-sided on-field effect where when monsters attack, they're destroyed at the end of the battle phase. But of course, you're playing Glads, so you tag out first before Ancient Forest comes into play. So it's a very one-sided floodgate that Value has to deal with. It puts them in spots where they either go off and just lose everything, or sit around and wait until they can out the forest. But waiting around versus Glads is not a very good strategy, so it puts them in that really weird spot where it's like, damn it they do, damn it they don't. But of course, I did include Noblemen as well. People have their preferences, so you might want to. Some people might want both Ancient Forest and Noblemen, or one or the other. So there are options to have. Defissure, it's a graveyard deck, so Defissure does make sense. Smashing Ground is very good against their Blackwing Synchros, which all have high stats. Of course, again, it's a Royal Oppression deck, so you do want additional outs post board. Twister, Dust Tornado, 7 Tools of Trapstone are all very good options. If you're not main decking all 3 War Chariots, go ahead and do so. War Chariot's very good here. And then of course the Transmigration Prophecy. I like this card a lot versus Value. It's a better Crow for me in my opinion, but the big thing that this does that Crow doesn't is it doesn't feed into their burials or their turn plays. So that's why I like it, but it is at 1 though, so I can see people wanting a combination of both. So that's my game plan for Value Turbo. These are the cards that I felt were the best ways of dealing with the matchup. It is one of the better matchups for Glads, but I wouldn't underestimate it. I do think you need to plan for it. And then finally, I want to talk about Frog Hero. This always seems to be one of the most popular decks in tournaments. This is actually one of your best matchups in the format. You do have a very strong matchup versus Frog Hero, but they can sometimes steal games from you. But you don't want them stealing matches. So what makes this matchup tricky for Glads? Well, I've only really have two complaints here. Well, the Monarch spells. The Monarchs themselves and the spell cards that go with them. Soul Exchange, Enemy Controller. This deck has no issue breaking out of a War Chariot lock. They can just take your GB, keep you from having a War Chariot live, and then slam their Monarch. It just feels very brutal when they can do that. And then, of course, the modern Frog decks of today are playing the Hero engine. Just like how heroes tend to be very difficult in the Hero Beat matchup, you know, the Stratos, the Alias. Well, you can also find them here as well. And then, of course, Absolute Zero is a threat as well. So, the decks, sometimes the Frog deck can get out of control if you can't stop them early, and kind of the snowball if left unchecked. So how do we check Frog Hero? Well, this is my game plan for the matchup. Fossil Dyna, of course, everybody knows how good this card can be versus Frog Hero. And we're playing Glad, so we have plenty of ways of protecting the card. Again, Retiari, if you're not maining the second copy, do go ahead and side it. They can just completely banish the Treeborns, completely get rid of Miracle Fusion from the picture. Secutor, some people main it, some side it. It's all preference there. But this is one of the matchups I feel Secutor is very needed, because Frog Hero does not have a lot of ways of interacting with Secutor. They do tend to leave themselves quite open, and resolving Secutor in this matchup can just be game over, right? It just tends to snowball way out of control. Super Poly, you can bring this in. Again, they are playing heroes, they are playing waters, so you can always catch them with Poly at the right time. Like War Chariot's very good in this matchup. It's very good in this matchup actually. If you feel like 3 Chariots not enough, if you want to see a card like that a lot faster and in more quantities, pulling the Rug's an option. This is also a very good matchup for Compulsory and the Transmigration Prophecy. With Compulsory, it lets you out Ab-Zero, and it lets you dodge their Monarch spells, dodge Econ, dodge Soul Exchange. I do like it for that reason. And then Smashing Ground seems pretty good. Can just break a dupe block or just beat up Monarch. So you don't really need much for this matchup. Again, it's already a very good matchup for GB, but of course, don't underestimate it. It can sometimes take games from you. So having a plan like this, I think, is enough for the Frog matchup. Okay, so that was pretty much it. I just wanted to go over those 4 matchups real quickly. If you guys want me to do something more in depth, like talk about my plans when siding out, if there's maybe other matchups you want me to cover, because there's more than 4 decks in Edison Format, I can tell you that. And yeah, I mean, this was a quick one. I feel like I wanted to cover these 4 decks specifically right now because these are the 4 most important matchups. But yeah, I wanted to make this video. If you guys have any other questions, let me know, and I'll see y'all next time.